Welcome back to the Lawrence County SportsNet podcast series, Week 8 preview edition, Week 8 Game 9 across the County of Champions. I'm James Dodson. Before we get going, I want to give a shout out to some golf, not champions, but medalists and just incredible performances at the state championships. On the girls' side, Sophia Cavelli for Neshannock ended up placing 16th overall. And how about Caitlin Hoover? She wasn't even initially qualified, had to get one of the at-large bids from Wilmington in District 10. She finishes in the top 10, finishing 10th in the Class 2A individual championships. And on the boys' side, 13th for Max Vitale and 7th for Matt Morelli in the Class 2A championship. So congratulations to them first and foremost before we get things here underway for our preview show, our podcast each and every week, presented and delivered by Penn Ohio Bottled Water. Make sure you give Penn Ohio Bottled Water a call for delivery of your 5-gallon, 3-gallon water cooler systems. Don't forget about their custom label options on individual bottles as well. Couple of huge games in terms of conference championship implications, and it starts right away at Sox Russo Stadium. The winner of Union and Southside will be your conference champion, no matter what. Even if the team wins one week and loses the following week, they'll have the tiebreaker. Those teams are going to be 1 and 2 in conference play. So the winner will be the Big 7 conference champion, as both teams 4-0 coming into this game. Union 7-1 overall, Southside a perfect 8-0. And let's start by looking at the Union Scotties with their quarterback Braylon Thomas. How about this? He could be Lawrence County's first ever player to go 1,000 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing in the same season, in the regular season. Should give a note, he did it last year with the playoffs. Ernie Burks from Neshannock did it with playoff games, as did Chris Hood for Newcastle. So it's been done before, but never in the regular season alone. 124 rushing yards short. That's where Thomas is right now of hitting that 1,000 feet. He would be actually the 16th different player in WPL history to hit that double millennium mark. 21 touchdowns on the year for Thomas, plus 12 on the ground. I think that's been the biggest part of the game this year, though, is that passing threat. Really didn't have it to this extent a year ago. And the big part is that it's just a multitude of weapons that Thomas has to work with. Dane Jonke leading the way, 11 touchdown catches. Grayson Blakely, Andrew Gettings, they're each racking up the catches as well, especially in the touchdown category. Mike Gunn, a dual threat, both on the ground and as a receiver. I think the bigger factor even than that, though, and that's going to be the biggest one in this game where the weather could be iffy on Friday night, it's turnovers. Since the Week 2 loss to Cornell, where Union coughed up the football 5 different times, Thomas has not thrown an interception, and a team as a whole, just 1 turnover. And as a team, Union averaging 395 yards of offense per game. How will that offense fare against the stout Southside defense? The Rams D, man, these are some staggering numbers too. They've allowed 68 yards per game on the ground, 55 passing yards per game on the ground. So doing the quick math, that's 123 yards of offense that they allow per game. Speaking of offense, how about the Southside offense? Oh, you know what? They're only the top scoring offense in the WPIAL right now at 45.5 points per game. They've won each and every game by at least 4 scores. Their quarterback pretty darn good as well, Brody Almashi, 24 total touchdowns. He's part of a 3-headed monster in the run game in that wing T offense. Almashi, Ryan Navarra, they each have 13 touchdowns. And watch AC Corfield as well. 7 touchdowns on the ground, another 3 receiving. He's the top receiving threat coming out of the wingback position as well. Last year, Southside controlled the game. 35-8 was the victory. They started with an 18-play drive and just continued from there, controlled the clock, controlled the offense. They actually did not have a negative yardage play in the entire game, except for 1 play on a dropped toss play. Everything other than that was 0 yards or positive yards, and that's why they have such incredible numbers. They stay ahead of the sticks. They stay away from the penalties. They're a tough team to beat when they do that because they're 61% on third downs. How about 7 of 9 on fourth downs on the year? It's very difficult to get the Southside offense off of the field. It's the 20th all-time matchup between Union and Southside. The Rams have a 13-6 overall record. Should be a fun one at Sox Russo's on Friday night. I'll be on the call with Eric Thomas for that one. Special thanks again to the Union broadcast crew helping us out with that one. The other game we'll have the coverage of Mohawk against Western Beaver. Tim Continenza, Lee Moan on the call in this one. It's not for the Midwestern Athletic Conference Championship. However, Mohawk, they win out. They're undefeated MAC champions. If they lose, they can still potentially get tri-champion scenarios if they were able to beat Neshannock the following week. Western, they need to win out to have any chance. They need to win against Mohawk and then win against Beaver Falls in Week 9. Their only conference loss came in their conference opener to Neshannock. They've won now 4 straight in the meantime. We're expecting a pretty high-scoring matchup as it features the WPIAL leader in passing yards against the WPIAL leader in passing touchdowns. And as you may have noticed, the theme of this entire podcast, records either being broken already or about to be broken. We'll start with Western Beaver here. Their quarterback, freshman Jaden Peel, he's already set the single-season passing record for a freshman. He also set the single-game passing mark last week with over 400 passing yards as a freshman in the win against New Brighton. He's been lights out since conference play began. 5 games, 19 touchdown passes. He's got 25 total on the year. And again, I want to talk about a multitude of weapons. Just look at his classmates from Lincoln Park, and Dorian McGee and Mikey Crawford. They're amongst the top 5 receivers in yards on the year for the WPIL. Throw in the running back Tyson Florence. He's over 1,000 total yards on the season, leading the team with 12 total touchdowns. But Mohawk, they probably have the best weapons to counter that of any team that the Western Beaver has faced, certainly in conference play so far this year. With Bobby Fadden, 13 touchdowns. He keeps extending his program record for single-season touchdowns. He could break up to 4 more career and single-season receiving records on Friday night. Jay Rona can also set single-season and career records for passing yards coming up. He just set in the win over Beaver Falls the career total touchdowns record as well. So Fadden can go for single-season receptions, career receptions, single-season receiving yards, and career receiving yards to just keep filling up the big board there at Mohawk High School with all of the records. The key, I think, though, it's more than Fadden. It's those secondary and tertiary targets. And when you look at Blake Logan, he had the 8-reception game against Elwood City when Fadden was basically being shadowed, double-teamed a good chunk of the game. And then you look at Dante Retord. He took advantage of one-on-one coverage. He got a 92-yard touchdown against Beaver Falls that really turned that game completely around 2 weeks ago. Oh, and don't forget about Justin Boston. Not only a threat rushing the ball and catching it out of the backfield, he's got 3 straight games with an interception on defense, and I think that's the biggest key, the Mohawk defense. It's bend, don't break at times, but if they can do that again like they did against Beaver Falls especially, avoid those long touchdown plays, make Western earn it with long drives, I think that's going to be the way that they come out with the victory in their home finale. And again, shout out to Boston and Joey Pale, who each had pick 6s last week. The Chapman brothers wrecking havoc all of the year. A.J. Verdi leading about 14 tackles a game, it feels like right now. That's the key, is the Mohawk defense that I'm still thinking getting the respect that it deserves with the accolades that they've put up. But this is going to be, again, probably the biggest test of the year against the Golden Beavers. A Mohawk win tonight, here's some more potential history. They would make them 8-1, and that would tie the best regular season in the Tim McCutcheon era. It would be just the 7th time Mohawk has had an 8-win season in their history. The only times they've had more successful regular seasons was in 1948 when they were 10-0, and in 1938 when they were a 9-0 team. Both of those came when they were Bessemer High School. And it's only the 8th time ever that the Warriors and the Golden Beavers have met. Wouldn't you know? First time was a tie, and they've split everyone since. A 3-3-1 record. Who will break the tie on Friday night and still have the shot at the conference title? 2 big ones that we're going to have there, but there's still 5 other games going on in the county, including a county against county matchup. We'll break them all down when we return here in the LC SportsNet Week 8.
Don't get left out to dry. Call the Penn Ohio Bottled Water Company for the fastest and most efficient bottled water delivery service in the area. Penn Ohio offers bottled water ranging from 16.9-ounce bottles to 5-gallon jugs, perfect for your next event or office water cooler system. Also, don't forget to ask about their custom labeling options. Visit PennOhioBottledWater.com for more information and to get a quote on their delivery services. Whether it's at home, in the office, or on the sidelines, Penn Ohio has you covered.
Of the 5 other games, we mentioned that there's one that features 2 county schools, and we're going to take care of that one next. Neshannock traveling down to Helling Stadium to take on Elwood City. It looks like 2 likely playoff teams. One more win and Elwood City is in the playoffs for the first time since 2011. That's actually the second longest drought in terms of playoff berth in the WPIL at the moment. So hats off to Elwood City, but they need one more win to get it done officially. Neshannock still at the top of the MAC. Perfect 5-0 in conference play. You could look at this as a potential trap game, again with that Week 9 game against Mohawk looming. See what team comes out to play. And also could be a trap game for Elwood City because they played so well last week. 4 great quarters against Beaver Falls. Couldn't quite get it done down the stretch. They can't afford a letdown game, especially when a win against the Lancers will punch their ticket to the postseason. Again, it's a theme of records. Elwood City has a few players on the brink of records. Chris Smiley, just about 100 yards away, 106 officially away from the single-season passing record. That's a record that has been in effect since 1966. And he needs just shy of 300 yards to set the career passing mark as well. Elijah Palmer-McCain, 295 away from the single-season rushing record and 390 away from the career rushing mark. Oh, by the way, both of those young men only juniors, so the career marks especially likely to fall, if not by the end of this year, certainly into next season. On the other side for Neshannock, Gino Mazzocco, the best passing game of his career last week, over 200 yards and a pair of touchdowns against Riverside. How about fellow sophomore Anthony Aiken? The sophomore with a career game, 3 rushing touchdowns and a kick return for a score. And the development of that passing game, I think, is what's crucial for Neshannock through the rest of this year and into the playoffs, because that's only going to open up more room for Aiken and for Pat Arger on the ground game, more chances for Bonner and Cubelis catching the ball on the outside. And here it is, more history. How about this? A win for Neshannock? Yeah, he doesn't want to talk about it, but it would be win number 100 for Coach Fred Mazzocco in his high school coaching career at Neshannock, who has won, by the way, 5 straight against Elwood City. And in the last 4 matchups, hasn't been close. An average score of 47-8. We expect one much tighter down at Elwood City on Friday night. From Elwood City to Grove City up in District 10. Grove City hosting Wilmington in District 10 play. It's going to be the District 10 finale between Wilmington and Grove City. And how about that Hounds rushing attack? 500 yards on the ground last week. Ben Miller, over 300 himself. He's now in the top 10 all-time rushers in Wilmington history. Just needs another 45 yards to be able to take one more step up that ladder. And part of the reason why this ground game has been so effective the last 2 weeks, they're finally back at full strength. Ty Mikulin being back as the other wing back with Miller. Buda Book now back to quarterback as a rushing option. Chase Mitchelltree at fullback. We're hoping he's back. The freshman suffered an injury in the first half of last week's game. Hoping to see him back out there as well for this regular season finale. But they take on Hunter Homan. He's one of Mercer County's 7 quarterbacks all time to be over 5,000 career passing yards. So it's going to be a tough one against Holman, who has 15 passing and 9 rushing scores on the season. Gavin Lutz and Nathan Greer leading the way, each with 35-plus receptions on the season. Both teams have won 8+ in a row in this series all time. Wilmington holding a slight edge in the all-time series, 17-14-1. Laurel, as we go down to Class 1A, they're 9-1 all-time against Summit Academy, but this is a big game here at home on senior night for Laurel to set up a win-and-you're-in scenario against Shenango in Week 9. Laurel looking for a bounce-back game after that tough loss to Southside a week ago. Look to get a heavy dose of Ben Hennon to try to get that running game back established as it struggled against the veterans of Southside. The senior back, he's been the workhorse all year long. He's getting close to 1,000 yards rushing on the year. Expect a big running week. It should be a nice boost for the Spartans before their season finale coming up against Shenango. And again, looking at that Southside game real quick, that was a game where Laurel did move the ball, especially early in the game. A couple of nice sustained drives, just could not quite punch it into the end zone on those first couple of drives. Really ended up hurting them. And then Southside, their offense is doing what they did. But again, a chance for Laurel to bounce back in a big way in this one. The other Class 1A team, Shenango in non-conference action before their season finale against Leechburg. Go back a week ago. How about this? Carlo Bazzato from Riverview High School. He ran himself for 418 yards against Leechburg last week. can Shenango finally get the run game going? It has definitely struggled this year. Cats running backs have struggled at times to find openings. We'll see how that could potentially be different this week. I think part of it, Nico DeSalvo, the freshman quarterback, we've seen him in some mop-up duty this year doing some good stuff. How about this? He got some quality first-team snaps last week against Summit Academy. He threw a couple of touchdown passes, ran the ball very well. He could be a nice wrinkle in the game plan maybe these past couple of weeks, potentially to go along with the strong passing arm of Sam Myers. And again, turnover is always the key. Either way, whether it's Myers or DeSalvo or Sam Patton early in the year, you have Colton Fedrisi catching passes left and right. He had his second 3-touchdown game last week against Summit. Oh, he also recorded a safety, by the way, in that game. Looking at Leechburg real quick, again, as we keep the record mentality going, how about Leechburg? They're on the verge of having a 1,000 player. Jaden Floyd, 11-11 passing and 884 rushing on the season with 21 total touchdowns. Keep an eye on him potentially hitting that milestone. His top target, Jake Cummings, he's got 43 receptions and is also the number 2 rusher behind Floyd. So we'll listen for those two names of Floyd and Cummings really on the offensive front. This was a high-scoring game last year. Leechburg winning 42-35, their first ever win over the Cats. And finally, one that I think is flying under the radar, but Newcastle traveling to Mo Rubenstein Stadium to take on Ambridge. Winless Canes at 0-8, Ambridge at 2-6. Their wins, though, have come at the hands of winless Blackhawk and against the 2A Freedom Squad. Both of those games were one-score contests. This is not, it's an Ambridge team that still has a chance to win out and potentially sneak into the postseason. However, this is a Ambridge team that is very beatable in the 60th meeting coming up between the Bridgers and the Canes. Malik Jefferson for Newcastle, again, working as that primary back in the ground game, 90 yards rushing a week ago. Ambridge, their main threats, Grant Udovich and Carlito Chandler, the main scoring threats. Teams have only combined for 27 touchdowns on the season. Turnovers, I think, are going to be yet again, of course, as they always are in high school play, but Newcastle, 5 turnovers last week, 4 of them coming in the first half. If they can avoid those turnovers, they're not a bad offensive team, is Newcastle. They just need to sustain the drives and not put the ball into the opposition's hand. Well, there you go. That's going to about wrap up our previews here for Week 8. Before we go, I want to remind you that the nominations are now open yet again for the month of October. Voting now open for nominations for your LCAP Team of the Month, as well as your LGKG Male and Female Athlete of the Month. So log on to lcsportsnet.com, and at the top of the page where it says awards, make sure you click on that awards button for LGKG Athlete of the Month and LCAP Team of the Month to get those nominations punched in, and we will then have our crew look at those nominations and vote on your Male and Female Athlete of the Month, as well as your LCAP Team of the Month. That's all coming your way, those announcements early in November. Also, remember, stay tuned for the beginning of volleyball playoffs coming next week as well. Before that, though, Friday Night Lights coming your way. We got 2 of the 7 great games in the area. You don't want to miss it. Tune in live or archive at lcsportsnet.com, powered by LCAP.